Could it be that corporate responsibility becomes just another opportunity for CEOs to engage in branding and PR? Could that be a cynical way of looking at it? Just a devil's advocate question there for somebody to answer.
Sorry, I'm tempted to tell Johan, drop the advocate. Never mind. Sorry. No, well, certainly it could degenerate into that, but you know, I don't think so. I mean, you know, I think there's not just a CEO, but underneath the CEO, there's lots and lots. And I think you kind of hinted this at the start, that a lot of people, the best people, will join organizations if they feel they're very choosy, just like consumers and the public is very choosy. People, the best talent, as you well know, are very choosy. They will join organizations that they feel comfortable. They want to obviously have a good career, but they really want to contribute, and they will tell, they will know, they will smell that this company is a fake, the CEO is a fake, and you know, this guy is just not walking the talk. So I don't think so.
Harry.
We're all trying to jump in now. I think sometimes, and this is just a reality of the world, the right things happen for the wrong reasons, if you like. Something causes you to do something which is right, but the initial cause of it is not connected. So I would just say this on that subject. I believe absolutely fervently, as does HSBC in general terms, that taking all of these issues seriously and making a contribution is simply the right thing to do. However, if you have difficulty in persuading people that it is the right thing to do, then there is a list of commercial reasons, as long as your arm, that you might want to do them. And I don't think there is anything wrong in the wake-up call possibly being Enron, if we're talking about governance, or the wake-up call being the NGOs dragging your brand through the mud, along with your customer, if your customer is in difficulty. I don't see that there is anything wrong with the wake-up call coming from that direction, because as Tan Sri said, this is supposed to be collective. And if we don't all act together, then no progress will be made. And on the last point, the more sort of cynical point about, you know, surely this is just a bandwagon, you will get found out instantly if you're treating it as a bandwagon. Because certainly the Malaysian press, in my opinion, it's not just because I'm sitting here, are actually very kind. If you go over to the, can we make sure that you are, actually? But, if you go over to the western side of the world, the press are particularly unkind, and they are very unkind to banks. And I can assure you that if we didn't mean this, it would be all over the front page of the big business news in the UK. So, in fact, you've got to be very careful, because once you do involve yourself, you really do have to mean it.
Rahana, you're obviously a very young company, a new company. When you speak to shareholders and your stakeholders, and they're thinking in terms of survival of the company, you yourself are taking, you know, obviously no prizes for taking risks. You know, survival of CEOs is important too. Do shareholders and stakeholders say to you, hey, how can you afford corporate responsibility in those terms? They talk about, can you afford CR, something, a cost?
I think we've actually been contemplating this, and we've been looking at it for the last couple of years. Astro is a young company, we're a 12-year-old company, and as you know, at different gestation point of the company, there are different challenges for the CEOs and the management and the board of the companies. First is actually to formulate a business plan, to execute it, to make sure you're successful first, to basically ensure sustainability. So there are various challenges that we've gone through. Astro, for instance, we launched in 1996, and then there was the financial crisis that we had to go through, and we weren't sure we were going to pull through. And then we had to build a customer. We're in, I think most of you know, we're in the pay TV subscription business using satellite DTH technology. So the thing about a business such as ours is that even from day one, all the investments are upfront. You have to have the satellite in the air, you have to have your broadcast center. So whether you have one customer or you have 2 million customers, the investment is done. So obviously, the pushes and pulls and the pressures of the CEO is different at a different juncture. But today we find ourselves, before we know it, we find ourselves, obviously by good execution and all that, suddenly we're in 4 out of every 10 Malaysian homes. We're in 4 out of every 10 Malaysian households. And what we find also is that we are placed in a very unique position, because guess what? We're in people's living rooms, we're in people's bedrooms, and that's a good thing. And then and actually Malaysians, our customers, we've got 2.4 million customers, and they're spending 4 hours average a day watching Astro. And traditionally people think Astro is about entertainment. Astro is about entertainment, but more and more customers are very, very demanding. Our customers are very demanding, not only in terms of end-to-end customer service, but in terms of content and what value proposition we can bring to them. And customers are getting, and we look at it when we talk about whether or not CR is something which is a box to be ticked, or CR has to be embedded in the business culture, we realize that it is actually not a choice. It is something that you have to inculcate. It is something that you have to do because all your stakeholders demand it of you. Because one primary stakeholder is being our customers, but we also have stakeholders like the regulators, we have stakeholders like our investors, we have stakeholders like our board, like our suppliers. We have all around, and they have different demands on us, but all embedded in it must be a social responsibility that we have. And from the Astro perspective, again, as I mentioned, the unique opportunity we have, and when we step back and we look at how we can make a difference. And first and foremost, today we have, I think, 27 Astro branded channels. Before we launched, I think you only had RTM1, RTM2, TV3, and a few other free-to-air channels. That in itself means there's a demand for creativity, there's a demand of pre and post production talents which didn't exist in Malaysia beforehand. So in essence, that's also something that we can give back to, we can invest in, and we also, as a byproduct of that and as direct product, we benefit from it, because so that ties up with education, scholarship programs in a specific field. So one of the first things Astro did was to launch a scholarship program, for instance, where the difference in our scholarship program is we are supporting our industry, which is basically the media, the creative industry, the production industries. And the second element is that we are providing the scholarship to families of our customers. And so families to our customers who get entrance into universities, whether it's local or overseas, in broadcasting technologies, creative, music, we will actually give them a scholarship. To date, we've got 27 scholars doing this, very talented kids, and we've actually put 10 million aside for this. And the difference also is that we involve our employees, because what these kids do during school breaks is they come back to Astro, they're provided on-the-job training, internship, mentorship from our own management. So that's one difference. And then we've also basically sent about 50 Malaysian talents to go to NIDA in Australia. Again, it's in script writing, it's in screen acting. So it's in the specific industries that we're in. And what we also look to going forward is how we can make a difference from entertainment, and we're shifting it from entertainment to entertainment plus. What does it mean? We're going to focus on 2 areas which we believe that we are uniquely positioned to contribute towards, and that's education as well as sports, similar to you. If you have been watching Astro, and I hope all of you are Astro customers, but you've been watching Astro, you will notice 2 very strong concepts. Stadium Astro, which is a brand in itself, as well as Campus Astro, which is recently launched. And this is our attempt at actually putting in 2 concepts. And people might think it's just sports, Olympics, Euro, EPL that we're going to bring on screen. But for sports, for instance, we have every intention of bringing it to the ground as well. Starting with, for instance, later on this year, we're going to launch together with Olympic Council of Malaysia, the first ever Malaysian 24/7 sports channels. And why? Because although Malaysians say they love, 70% of our customers take sports and they love sports, but they all like to watch international sports. We believe that, you know, Malaysians can't just be spectators, but they also have to adopt sports and make sports part and parcel of their whole lifestyle, wholesome society, community, and get into the competitive environment and so on. So we believe that by actually featuring local sportsmen, making them public figures, making them inspirations, aspirational, then more Malaysians will step up and actually go into that arena. So that's one. In addition, we'll be progressing it into sports in terms of kids, football, whatever, clinics and so on. The other element is education. Today, under Campus Astro, today we have things like Discovery, Net Geo, programs on our service, but we realize that Malaysians are still in the stage where they also look at curriculum-based learning. So we're introducing a 360 approach to learning, where we will marry what we have on air to what we can have available on the broadband, on internet, on interactivity. And in addition to that, this year what we also aim to do is to bring Astro to schools and bring Astro to pediatric wards in Malaysia again, because these are things that we already have. So by actually putting Astro in schools, what we can do is we can have the technology to actually push certain content which is relevant to the school teachers and school children, and through that, you know, they can get to know Astro and they can learn in a different way as well. So the whole idea that Astro has to do is that it doesn't cost an arm and a leg to do that, and it's just part and parcel or extension of what Astro does in any case.
And Dr. Krishnan, who I described as a gentleman player, you know, you're in this, well, maybe Malaysia is not a hugely gentlemanly place, but it's certainly more gentlemanly than some of the places I mentioned you are in, Dato. When you do go to some of these other countries, do you see what do you see as the role of the CEO back at home base when you send your guys and girls to some far-off location where incredible temptations are there to, you know, to not do the right thing in order to deliver profits to you back home? How do you feel about your role there?
I think the fundamentals are still the same. I think that if you go out to, let's say, in India, you still want to produce a good product so that, you know, you get customer acceptance. You would still want to do things as far as corporate governance is concerned in a correct manner. Of course, you know, if you talk about, you know, you ask my audit committee, they will tell you about internal controls being a problem, you know, in India and things like that, you know, because basically you are dealing with the cashless, a lot of cash transactions and so on. So there will be areas where you will not be up to speed, but the general approach will be one that, look, this thing about what you call social responsibility, or rather being accountable to stakeholders, is not just saying that it is in your home base, but it is meant to be all-encompassing as far as your operations are concerned. Mm-hmm. So it is, if you have operations in that area, you may have to modify some of the things that you do. Maybe, you know, I won't be supporting rugby, but probably cricket, you know, in India. But nevertheless, it's something that you would want to do. But maybe, you know, knowing myself, I will not support cricket. I'll probably go there and support hockey, meaning minority sports, and see what we can do for it, you know. Mm-hmm. So the basic framework of social responsibility activities or initiatives will continue. Modifications for the environment you have to make from time to time and from country to country. So I think that there is no fundamental difference in philosophy. Probably execution is slightly different.
So the basic rules of the game remain the same for wherever that is. That's something which I think Malaysian companies in the past have had difficulty with as we start to venture overseas.